understand. So what we're saying is that we understand and learn things as human beings. And in this body, Waheguru talks about that it's fruitless to keep saying, I'm learning about God, without taking that next step, which is actually saying, how do I merge with God? So how do I become one? So we can't obtain God just by collating and writing down how big Waheguru's creation is. We can do that. Guru Maharaj has done this in this fourth Pauringa to give us some understanding at the buddhi level. But then we need to move beyond that. And sort of a conclusion, which I'm doing at the beginning, is that through these four Pauringa, mankind begins to understand the extent of Waheguru's creative power and how majestic Waheguru is. To the point that Guruji says, give everything else up and say that I am wonderstruck. Waheguru, Waheguru, Waheguru. So that's what the saints of Waheguru get to this point. They talk about Waheguru's creation, they think about Waheguru's creation, and in the end they come to the understanding sooner than everybody else that Waheguru can only be worshipped. You can't quantify Waheguru. So this body starts to bring a little bit of that together. So, should we read the line first, yeah? Everybody together? A song? Okay, quite easy because it's on the screen. Tha ki hunda? Yeah, good. You did that in a male voice. I said Danjot. But you did good. The right answer. Yeah. So, Tham is a place. Okay. So, how many Tham do you know in this world? Good Tham that you've been to. So, where did you go to watch the football the other day, Haj?
Anfield.
Anfield is a Tham. Anfield is a Tham. Which other football grounds have you been to? Bilal, have you been to football? Oh, Turf, what about that sort of thing? Yeah, go. Okay, Molyneux. Molyneux is the name of a football ground. Okay, it's a place. So, what's the place? Where's the tallest mountain in the world? Miri? Do you know? Does anybody know? Anji?
Nepal.
Yeah, but what's the name? Yeah, it's okay. Is it Nepal? Is it Kathmandu? Is it Nepal?
Yeah.
See, my geography is rubbish. See, so you know more than me. But there's many places. So what's the place called up there where all the heat comes from? Angie?
Sun.
The sun. And what is the sun? What's all that place around the sun? That openness? Angie? Space. Okay, so a sankanav, a sanktav. So I've asked you for places. Then you've then given me names of those places. So every place, regardless of where it is, Guru Nanak Dev Ji says, a sank nav, but before that, a sanktav. So a place is not necessarily a physical place where it belongs. It can also be not just places of the world. So let's pick a country. So let's pick a continent, Africa, Egypt, Cairo. So as you can see, mankind has given a name to every place. So every time, every place has a name. And those places are countless. So you just give me a few examples. And those examples are sometimes contained to the country that we live in, the world, you know, in the sea, in space, beyond. But it's all dictated by our buddhi, our intellect and our understanding. And there might be people that know more than us and they'll say there's other things. So if we think about a sankanav, a sankatav, so the 5 elements, we can call them a tav, we call them a place as well. Although you wouldn't say it's not somewhere you can go, but the 5 elements are a tav as well. So what are the 5 elements? Angie, start over there. Fire, yeah. Somebody want to give me another one? Fire. Tavleen. Earth, yeah, okay, yeah. Angie. Water. Giraga.
Yeah.
Air. And the other one is called?
The sky.
Yeah, ether. We call it ether, I think. The space in between everything. Yeah. So those are Tam as well. And once again, you've just given them all a name. A Sankanav, a Sanktav. We've done the one about the countries. Yeah, every place in the world that you probably know has a name and a place, and to the point everybody lives in a street with a name. You live in a region. Now when you start work and you start working in different parts of the country and you meet other people, and I said, where do you come from? Yeah, and then you'll say, this is the place I come from. And likely the planets, all the planets are millions of miles away, but yet we all give them a name. All 9 of those have a name. And guess what? Beyond those planets, there's probably, well, not probably, we know from Guru Maharaj's teaching, that beyond those planets, Dharti hor pare, hor. There's more planets. At the moment, mankind and humanity hasn't discovered those planets, but no doubt if they discover another one, they'll give that a name. Asankhanav, Asankhatav. And then furthermore, Vaheguru says, why do human beings think they can quantify the extent of Vaheguru's creation? You just have to look at the human body and how complex is the human body. So in medicine, you have specialists for almost every part of the body. A neurosurgeon will specialize in the brain. You'll have a doctor that specializes in heart, somebody that specializes in arms and legs, and somebody will specialize in ear, nose and throats, and some people even do teeth. And they're all specialists. And that is the complexity. So even those are tar, they are places. And then if we move beyond the human kingdom, we move to the animal kingdom. How complex is the animal kingdom? Both on land and in the water. How complex is the plant kingdom? Different types of vegetation in different types of the world. All Vaheguru's creation. So Guruji says, Asankhanav, Asankhatav. That every place has a name. Every place, everything has a name and a place. And we as human beings quantify those places by giving them a name. So we go beyond that. So I know probably 90% of the names of you people in here. Why? Because over time I've either written them down, or I need to tell you off, or I like to say nice things about you, or I just generally know because I've seen you before, or I've heard your mums and dads shout at you with your name first, then I know this is who everybody is. And everybody has a name. And human beings, as humanity has developed, has then started to give names not only to ourselves, but everything around them. And then human beings have started to give Vaheguru a name, depending on who they are, where they are. Now, Asankhanav, Asankhatav. Why? Because once people, so the first sort of names that people gave to God was dependent on what sort of benefit they derived from worshipping God. So if God was seen as beautiful, God would be described as Madhusudan, beautiful. Because God is invisible, can't be seen, and doesn't have a form, Vaheguru is called Nirankar. Now, in other religions, God is given different names. So in the world, people will call God Allah, Khuda, Ram, Rahim. They'll call Vaheguru Krishna, Madhusudan, Madho, Karta, Nirankar. We call Vaheguru Vaheguru. We use Satanam. And in Sri Guru Granth Sahib Ji, when we did the program on Sri Guru Granth Sahib Ji some years ago, these are the number of times that these names that Maharaj has used. So Har or Hari is used in excess of 8,300 times in Sri Guru Granth Sahib Ji as a name for Vaheguru. Asankhanav, Asankhatav. Vaheguru is everywhere. What does Har mean? So if I say Vaheguru Har Tha Hai, what does that mean? Tanjo? Every place. So that's why God was called Har. Because Har Tha, Har Bande vich, Har Cheez vich, Vaheguru exists at every place. So Vaheguru was given the name Har. Yeah? Gobind. Go means the world. Bind means to care for. Or Gopal means the same. So the world, whoever the entity that looks after the world is Gopal or Gobind. Data, the giver. So Vaheguru has been given countless names in countless different ways. So the part of the first line of the 19th poem says, Asang Kanal, Asang Tav, because it opens up to us in the teaching that we get that Vaheguru has countless names and is at countless places. Guru Nanak Dev Ji says, how many names does Vaheguru have? We don't know. But one thing Guruji says is, Balhari Jaam Jete Tere Nav Hai. Jete Tere Nav Hai. I am a sacrifice to every name that you have, because they are about Vaheguru. But whilst God has many names, Guru Gobind Singh Ji equally says, who does job, Sahib? Some of you. Tavai Sarb Naam Kathe Kavan Karm Naam Bharat Samat. God has special names depending on how people view God, as I said. And Guru Gobind Ji captures this. Yeah? Nobody can say all the names. In fact, Sir Jap Sahib gives many hundreds of names for God. In 199 body, and Guru Maharaj Ji describes God in many different ways. To the point, in Ek Achari Chand, Maharaj Ji describes God in one word at a time. In just one word descriptions. But equally, Guruji says, Vaheguru has no name. Because Vaheguru's Elek hai, Apek hai, Anam hai. When you put the era in front of Naam, it means God has no particular name. God is just known in many ways. So Naam, and Tav. So this body starts off by telling us that. Now a slightly different view and angle, or bringing it together towards spirituality, is, I've already told you, where does the sun rise? On the 4 points of the compass. What do we normally say? The sun rises in which direction?
East.
And sets in the, and in between it goes past south and doesn't, well, it sort of makes it past north and then back to where it started. And Guruji says that Naam is often in Akkar or Akshar, in words and letters. And the Naam that the world on the whole jops, or the majority of people worship Naam in the Akkari sense, in the form of letters. And Akkari Naam is repeated through words. And normally it's not inside the being, it's from the outside. So we use our tongues, we sing, we listen to Naam. And that's like the first steps, like the sun rising in a spiritual sense. That in us, the desire to want to do Naam Simran. So for us, Akkari Naam, so what's our Akkari Naam? So if I said Vaheguru, what's that? What do we call Vaheguru? It's our mantra, yeah? So we do Guru Mantra. What other mantras do we do? Mool Mantra. What do we do other than that? Swarnvatke, 5 Baniya, and then we do our other Baniya in the day as well. Yeah? So any Bani that we do is Akkari Naam. We're using forms of letters to help us get closer to Vaheguru. Guruji called this Akkari. But some Katha Vachaks and some learned people have said that is the outside name and that's the starting point, and we have to do that. But as the men of God get further and further and closer to God, they get to the Satnam, which resides inside. And Mahapurukhs do Naam Simran, and often people will say they're sitting in Samadhi, they're sitting in meditation, and the lips are not moving, they're sitting perfectly still. But the Naam is repeating on their inside, and they've gotten to a point where the Naam they do is no longer necessarily Akkari Naam. They always do Akkari Naam because it tops up what they do, but they've gotten to a status where they do Satnam, which is inside. And that Shabd continued inside them. So for instance, what they do is that they often, we talk about in an ansab, Vajje Anhad Ture. Now Anhad means unstruck melody. So when you play an instrument, so we haven't got a bajja here, so if you're going to play a bajja, you have to blow air to make that bajja give you a sound. To get a sound out of a trumpet or any other those wind instruments, you've got to put wind into them. A lot of you play tabla here. How do you get sound out of tabla?
Hit it.
Hit it. Just any old way.
In certain ways.
In certain ways. Okay, so you hit it. So how do you get the sound out of tambourine and cymbals? You bang them together. So that's something that's struck in a way. You have to strike it with air, with your hands, or you bang them together, and there's a sound, a nod. But when you get to anhad, the sound happens inside without any force, any banging together of anything. And often there's Sakya Mahapurkh, I think it's Baba Sundar Singh, who was, when a doctor put a stethoscope to them, the only sound the stethoscope was picking up was Vaheguru. And the Sangat around, or the Sikhs around Baba Sundar Singh said, the doctor said, I can hear Vaheguru through my stethoscope. But yet, Babaji aren't saying anything. And then Baba Sundar Singh explained to them that the unstruck shabd of Vaheguru is going inside. And Mahapurkhs who've attained this status are at the point of Satnam. So Naam is very important, and we have to start, and our status is starting at Akhri Naam. But we work towards where the sun sets. Yeah? It's the completion of the cycle, where the sun sets. And Bani describes those names that we call Akhri Naam as Kirtam Naam, normally that you meditate or you say through your tongue, yeah, by repeating. It's Kirtan Naam Kathe Tere Jeba. The tongue repeats those names. But the Satanam, the true Naam, which is the perfect primal Naam, described here, Tera Pura Urbala. That is your, because in Bani or in Punjabi, the direction east is Purab. Yeah? So you have to come back from where you came. So you start and you go around in a circle and you come back to east again. Okay, so that was the first line. The next stop is, altogether, Agam Agam Asankalo. Okay. What does Agam mean? So, does anyone know what Gama means? You're having a go. Go on.
Reachable.
So Gama means reachable. It made a Gama with you. Right. I'm going to show you. So you reach out. So I can say this telephone is within my reach. It's in my gum. That chair isn't. Unless I use the force. Bring it in. But I haven't got that power. So some things are within our reach. Some things aren't. Now why does Maharaj use a gum twice? So if something, so here's the what's the translation? Somebody read it. What's that called? The translation is? Okay. So we'll come to the celestial realms in a minute because that's the Asankhya law. But the agam. Now there's two meanings given here in English. But Maharaj has used agam. So inaccessible. So what does inaccessible mean? That we can't? Unobtainable. And unapproachable. Probably not the right meaning, but unreachable. That you can't get to it. Now why two agams? Hanji.
Really far away.
Yeah, there's that first thing is that it's far, it's out of reach, and then it's even further. But agam also is sometimes described why there's two. The first agam means physically. So whilst I gave those physical examples that those chairs are not within my reach, but this phone is. But beyond that, where did we start in the description of the body? We talked about our buddhi, our intellect, our understanding. Now, you go to somebody who's uneducated, never been to school, speaks, but doesn't understand concepts of things. And you went to start to talk to them about geography of the world. They've always lived in a small village in the back end of somewhere. and they've never been to school or watched television or read anything because they don't have the ability. Would they understand what you said? Yay or nay? All together? No, I know you're still awake. No. Why? Because the first agam talks about physical aspects. The second agam talks about our intellectual ability. So something that's outside our intellectual ability. Well, some of you go to university and know lots more things about me. Some of you go to school and know lots more than me about geography. And it's because I don't know. It's not within my understanding, or I've forgotten over time. But Maharaj says that when we talk about Vaheguru, Vaheguru is from a physical aspect agam, unreachable for us. But agam also because outside our buddhi. We cannot understand God because it's outside our buddhi. So that's to say that Vaheguru can't be understood, but on the whole, when we first start out on a spiritual journey, Vaheguru is agam, unreachable in two senses. So we talked about the planets a minute ago. So some planets, humanity or scientists don't know about. They agree with what Guru Nanak Dev Ji says, that there are more planets, but for their telescopes and their understanding, the knowledge of those planets is unreachable for them. They don't know. So what was the furthest planet? I can't remember. Why have humans not gone further than that planet? What's the limiting factor? What stops them going further? Fuel. Anything else? Money. The ability to breathe in going past that area, yeah, because the air gets in. Okay, they can take oxygen mask, but that will only sustain them for so far. But we don't know whether the spacecraft is going to collapse from a lack of gravity or whatever, etc. So at the moment, it's beyond scientists' reach. Both their physical reach and their intellectual reach. So Vaheguru is agam. And then we talk about Asankhya law. Okay, so this means that we, the celestial realms of the planetary systems, the solar systems, we don't know about these. And humanity won't know. So why do people try to say we can quantify God or we can evaluate God? Because they can't. So agam, Asankhya law. Now later on in Japji Sahib, when we talk about some of the khans, it'll talk about Tipte lo agar. That there are those that do know about these. And when we did the Sunaya the Apodinga and the Manedinga Apodinga, we talked about those saints and bhagts that do know about these. So, for instance, the human body, was it Bhakt Nam Dev Ji who said there are 32 main vessels in your body that carry the bulk of, or are the main linking arteries. Bhakt Nam Dev Ji never went to school, never studied biology, anatomy in any way, but they knew these things. So agam, Asankhya law. So Vaheguru is agam, and beyond, because we don't know about the regions beyond certain parts. Okay. Next line altogether. Asankhya ka hai, sir par hoy. Okay. So mankind will still try and satisfy themselves that they can find out more. You ever had to revise for exams? Horrible end of year exams when everything comes together. How does your head feel? And your mum and dad said, Hale horka, do a bit more revision. And you're coming out there holding your head and you said, does that happen? Satinder? No, not to you. Yeah, goody too, she was revising all the time. No. But when you do sometimes, and sometimes you don't, or if you're reading forever and ever and ever, what happens? That your head feels overwhelmed, pressured, and sometimes you're reading something and nothing's going in. Sometimes people say, Mera sar te parya. There's pressure on my brain, I can't think anymore, this is too much, I need a break. And Maharaj says, when talking about in relation to Vaheguru's Qudrat, that Asankhya Again, while at Asankhya, there's countless that try to say that Vaheguru is this and Vaheguru is that, but only within a limit. And some people persist on finding out more. Now, when we talked about Brahma in one of the ones, is in the end, Brahma tried to evaluate Vaheguru. And in the end came out saying, Neta, this is not Vaheguru, this is not Vaheguru, this is not Vaheguru. Because God is beyond that. And in the end, Brahma lost his whole life and many livelihoods and his family trying to evaluate God. And in the end, Brahma just absorbed in Vaheguru because he said, I can't quantify God. I can only absorb in God. So there are countless that try to say what Vaheguru is. But equally, what this body also means is that some people will say, we can't do justice to Vaheguru. And that itself is a borge. That is a bar on our head. For us to try and quantify Vaheguru is a borge. So we won't even try, because when we do, it becomes like a pressure on our head, on our thought, because we can't really cope. So that's Akri, so that's Asank Kahe Sirpar. Mental pressure. Okay, just change direction now, because the body changes direction slightly, but continues on the same theme, but slightly changes direction. So time to you to do some work. Okay, so how did humans communicate before language? First question. So think about these. Second question, why is communication important? Number 3, how important are words and letters in communication? And finally, why are words and letters important in religion or spirituality? First question. Any takers for the first question? Hanji.
Would they like to draw things to explain to
Yeah, good, yeah. The same behind you, yeah. Hanji. Go on, your turn.
like picture?
Paint a picture, drawings. Anything else? 4. Hanji.
Actions.
Actions. What sort of actions?
Moving, doing the drawings, moving their arms around to get points across or something.
What's that called?
Body language.
Body language on the other hand? Sign language. Okay. Now this is a good one now. So if I'm hungry, what do you normally do when you're hungry? You pat your stomach. You don't. You just say to your mum, "Fuck lagi," don't you? Yeah. But before that, before a little baby could do that necessarily, they would say that. So what if you hurt yourself? What do you normally do? If you hurt your hand, what do you normally do to your hand? You grab it with the other hand and go, ouch. Yeah? If you burn yourself on the tawa, what do you say then? I want to look at the boys then. What do you do if you burn your hands on the tawa? Yeah. And cavemen, what did you say? What if somebody wanted to say yes, what do they do internationally? What do people say yes for yes? They nod their heads. And what do you say for no? Yeah, except some people say when in India, that means yes. Okay, after that. Okay, so sign language, a different form of communication. Yeah, so cavemen before language came would just grunt at each other and normally bash each other around the head to say, I'm dissatisfied with what you've done. Did you ever see those movies from cavemen time? People couldn't settle a dispute, they'd just like go about killing each other in order to say what they were. So communication is hugely important in humanity. Why is it important? Because it helps us express our emotion, what we're thinking, what we want. And that sets us apart from animals. Now, you can probably hear a tiger roar, and you can say it's a tiger roaring. And two tigers might roar at each other, but they're not communicating, they're just growling at each other. Or chimps are a little bit more intelligent, and they might use a little bit of sign language, but they can't read and write. So we as human beings are being set apart as being intellectually more advanced. And so why are words and letters important? Because the animal kingdom does not have words and letters. Now, you might watch some films where the dolphin talks to the man, etc. The dog can talk and things, but it's not real, honest. So, what makes... Now, you've got your notepads out. What are you writing? I hope you're taking notes. Yeah? So you're writing, aren't you? Because when you go home, and now I'm going to set you some homework, you're going to think, I better look at my notes. So I've written something down. So that form of written communication, and you're using letters, and you're writing them down, and you're probably copying things off the screen. So in communication becomes important. And for human beings, the early format in religion and spirituality, people couldn't necessarily always express their feeling for God in any particular way because language wasn't developed. So a lot of the ritualistic things that people did, so bowing down was an action. They could do that because it's a non-voice communication. Yeah? They could maybe make something like a bell and ring it, and then do those things, or they sit with their hands folded, which is an action. But spiritually uplifting wise, did it necessarily give them what they wanted? So words and letters became very important. And I've written something here before we get onto the Akkar, is that divine knowledge is spread and shared through letters. For us, that is Shabd. To gain knowledge, you need letters to share knowledge. You need letters to share knowledge. I didn't write this, and you need letters. All praise is contained in letters. Next line says, all together, Akri Naam, Akri Salah. So, the Naam of Waheguru to us, in the Akri Naam version, as we spoke about before, comes in the form of Shabd. The Guru Maharaj could have just said, memorize every Shabd. We'll have a bit of trouble, because most of us have trouble remembering 2 or 3 Shabds. So, Akri Naam, Akri Sahala. So the whole rest of the body evolves around how Waheguru and communication with Waheguru in the early stages is through Akshar, Akkar, letters, words. Words are formed and they come together. So, help has arrived. You ready? You're just in time to talk about Akri Naam. Oh. I was looking at your slide and it looked a bit dodgy. To gain knowledge, you need letters. To share knowledge, oh no, to share. You're right.
How dare you doubt my slides?
He's here now, don't talk about it. Okay. So, Akri Naam, Akri Salah. So we talked about Naam, the name of Waheguru, to worship Waheguru. So how do we do, and we already mentioned, how do we do Naam Simran? Different ways of? Hanji. And within yourself. Yeah. On the Akri Naam side of things, what do we do daily? What part do we do? Nitane, Mool Mantar, Waheguru.
So all of this is Akri Naam. So everybody that you do, as part of your part, whatever your Nitane is, plus Naam Simran that you would do where you chant the name Waheguru. That is all Akri Naam.
Okay, so Akri Naam could become important because to get that knowledge you need the Shabds. Now you're all fortunate because you live in a world where you've got classes, you have Santhya classes, yeah? Therefore you can learn Akshar and how to pronounce them, how to say them from an early age. In the generation where we grew up, that wasn't always available. So we had to go about a different way, which sometimes was a stumbling block and sometimes slowed us down, and sometimes we make mistakes, and we still do, because you learn in a different way. If you go back to the caveman example, when language first started, people really struggled with Naam. And today Maharaj has made it easy for us by giving us technology as well. So now you know where the pauses are, now you know where the breaks are. But that wasn't always the case. So Naam and Gyan are in the form of, Naam is in the form of Akkar, in letters and words. And it's through Naam we do Salah. What is Salah? Not Liverpool's number 10.
11.
11. What does it mean? Kisa this Salah Nakad. Yeah, go.
Praise.
Praise. Good. So, Salah or Sift and Salah are normally used together. Sift and Salah, yeah, are used together to praise Waheguru. And we praise Waheguru not by grunting and moaning and bowing our heads, yeah, because we've evolved to a state where we are above the animal kingdom and we can actually worship Waheguru through Gyan and get Gyan through Akkar, and we can sing God's praises. So, I probably jumped ahead when I said Gyan. Next line. Okay. So we can sing Waheguru's Sift and Salaha, yeah, and praises of Waheguru through Akshar, but equally through Akshar we can gain Gyan, knowledge, and through Akshar we do Geet Gane, and we praise Waheguru's Gon. So remember some of those names of Waheguru are the Gon of Waheguru, the virtues of Waheguru. So through Akshar, through letters, we gain Gyan. We have the ability to sing or talk about Waheguru's praises, and today we're doing that through letters and words. So Honapa Geet, we talk about Geet. Now, there's a shabd by Pat Kabir ji where they say, Lok jane eho Geet hai, eto Brahm vichar. That Waheguru, or the Geet of Waheguru, isn't normal Geet, singing songs. It is Brahm vichar. It is the contemplation of the virtues of Waheguru. So there's a difference between just any old Geet and the Geet that Waheguru Maharaj refers to here. So Akri Gyan Geet Gun Gaha. So how do you sing Geet? Waheguru the Geet? Well, I've been let down today by the Mary Berries of this world. She said no to me. So the Mary Berries can tell me, how do you normally do Geet Ga of Waheguru? Auntie? You got ukulele. Any other way? Bhaja. So how do you sing?
So what do we call that? Kirtan? Yeah. So
Okay.
so our singing of Waheguru's Geet is using musical instruments, but it's through Kirtan. Yeah.
Okay. So Gyan comes through Akshar, through letters, through words. And we read Bani, and you come to classes, you go to Santhya, you listen to Kirtan from others, and you watch television, and you learn.
Yeah. But the beauty of Gyan then, also, if you look at this slide, is the second point on that, is you need Gyan to then gain knowledge in the first place, but also to share knowledge. So I might have some ideas in my head, I might have knowledge in my head, but it's no good in my head if I can't communicate to you. Now I can verbally communicate it to you, but with lots of things that when we kind of babble on, you'd probably think, what did he say 10 minutes ago? So the best form of remembering something is to write it down. So Gyan can be passed on through Akkar as well. And that's the point here. Now, the beauty of Akkar then is you can use Akkar positively by praising Waheguru. Waheguru's Sift Salaha, we share through using Akkar, through reading Bani.
Okay, so that divine knowledge. Now, if you look at any religion in the world, their scriptures are written in words. That's why they're words. So nobody in any religion remembers everything perfectly about them. They refer to their holy texts. Yeah. So the Gita is called Gita because it's singing about God.
And it's written in poetic form.
Poetic form, yeah. Even the Quran is written in poetic form, and many of the other elements of different religions is based on singing the virtues of God. Nanak paujal par pare jo gawe prabh ke geet. So when we talked about Geet before, so if you look at the pictures there, in Sikhism we do Kirtan, we listen to Kirtan. Because Kirtan is uplifting, brings about within us the ability to communicate our feelings with God easier than it is just to talk. As I said, when we're babbling, that's more difficult to comprehend, but you could probably listen to 5 minutes of Kirtan, that will give you more because of the way it's transmitted. And we'll come on to why Maharaj has given Kirtan such a high and elevated position. But in Hinduism, they will sing bhajan, which is singing virtues of God. In Islam, Sufi saints will sing their Geet for Vaheguru. And in Christianity and other religions, they sing hymns about God. So communication and Akri communication then convert into Gyan and Geet and singing Gonga. And those all become together. So when we talk about Gyan in addition,
so when we read Bani, often there's reference to Gyan. Often we're told that without Gyan, we can't achieve Mukti. Yeah, without Gyan, without divine knowledge, forget it, you've got no chance. But Gyan itself, there are different forms of it. The first Gyan that we'll talk about is Prakriti Gyan, which is like scientific knowledge. That scientists over the course of time have kind of built up a body of knowledge that is being passed on. Often that knowledge is then challenged by people who are equally adept at understanding science and kind of challenging what the common beliefs were. So science has that kind of knowledge base, but similarly, if you look at another form of Gyan, is Kala Gyan. So artistic Gyan can take the form of somebody who can draw, write poetry, what else? Sing pottery, anything with their hands. That is a form of Gyan, a form of Gyanta. And one kind of thing that people often say is that on the whole, in the round, and there will be exceptions to this, that if you're particularly good at one type of Gyan, that your flair is scientific, so if you're a scientist and you've got huge knowledge in that area, the chances of you being a Kala Gyan, an artistic Gyan, is probably remote, and vice versa. So if you're a musician, your kind of understanding of science will be limited, only because you are dedicated to your art, to your particular skill. Now, the third form of Gyan is Dharm Gyan, which is spiritual knowledge.
I was just going to say, we will do Gyan. I'm just wondering, because I've been going on now since 1:15, and I know what the attention span of these people is. And
Like
shall we give them a break? Do you want a break? Yeah. So what we'll do is we'll come back, and as Bhai Sahib said, is Dharma Gyan from a spiritual perspective. Dharma Gyan is most important. So the question now is, where does Dharma Gyan come from? Yeah. And
just something to kind of reflect whilst you're enjoying your 5-minute break is, does Dharma Gyan have the same limitations as I've just described, that with these first two forms of Gyan, you're limited by maybe having one Gyan and not the other? Is spiritual Gyan limited, is the question.
Okay. 5 minutes. See you then.
Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh.
Okay, so before the break, you've probably written in your books, in letters and words, that there's 3 types of Gyan. Prakriti Gyan, scientific knowledge. Kala Gyan, artistic, whether that's singing, drawing, pottery, whatever, all sorts of arts. And then the one that Maharaj focuses on is Dharma Gyan, spiritual knowledge, and why that is important and how is that gained. So we heard before the break that sometimes Prakriti Gyan and Kala Gyan most often won't mix. So somebody who's good at scientific knowledge will tend to be less good at the art. One, because their time doesn't allow, because they're so deeply involved with their own field of study. So a biologist might want to know the minutiae detail of a tree. Where do the roots go? How does it take its water? What's the bark like? How does it do? What are the leaves like? And do all of that. And that takes a lot of time. And therefore they don't often have the ability to do anything around kala, around artistic elements. Now some people will break that, right? But Maharaj says people that have Dharma Gyan, they're not precluded from having the other Gyan. We'll talk a little about that now.
So, dharmic gyan often is characterized by people that kind of project that dharmic gyan as having many, many different skills. So we talked about how these dharmic granths have been written in poetic form. So the people that have written these granths have a flair for poetry. Equally, when you read Bani or you read other dharmic granths, you'll see that the person that's actually written this has kind of knowledge of the cosmos, has knowledge of kind of scientific concepts and ideas, and we'll talk about some examples of that. So what we're saying is that dharmic gyan isn't the one that is not like the other two where you're kind of restricted or limited. Dharmic gyan gives you opens up all sorts of spheres that you can see, feel, detect, and gives you skills that maybe we know nobody else would actually have unless you had that dharmic gyan.
Yeah. So different colour, different elements that people know, and there are some God Sikhs who are very good. That they're scientifically good, they're artistically good, and their dharmic gyan is very good as well.
You talk about some God Sikhs from history. You talk about somebody like Baba Deep Singh, and Baba Deep Singh on the battlefield is unmatched. Baba Deep Singh as a scholar is unmatched. You talk about maybe some God Sikhs even prior to that were kirtaniyas of the highest quality. Yeah, yet they could write poetry. They could be heroes on the battlefield as well. So this type of knowledge, this dharmic gyan that you have, is boundless. It kind of gives you skills that kind of transcend, go beyond what you would probably think is kind of human capacity.
So question for you now is, where do you go for dharmic gyan? Did you get it from school? Yes, no? Some of you go to a dharmic school, so you might do, yeah? So, can you necessarily get it from school? No. So where do we go? Hanji. Good answer. Gurdwara Sahib. So we go to the Guru Ghar and we listen to Maharaj, either in terms of Part, or Katha, or Kirtan, or a mix of both, or we listen to Itihas, history as well, and we learn about the Gyan. So we talked about Baba Deep Singh Ji there. So we obviously in the past we've done a program on Baba Deep Singh, so we understand the Jeevani of Baba Deep Singh and how they entered into this. We talked about Baba Buddha Ji and how they entered into Dharmic Gyan. Now,
just a single awali, I think, is another example I was talking about.
So some of it is to do with your own karma. So where were you? Do you know, often we've said that dharma is a bit like this, that you might have one life and you might not actually reach a liberation, but you've done so much bhakti in that life that in the next life you're further along. So lots of God Sikhs come with very good bhag, very good karma from where they were in a previous life. And that's why Maharaj encourages us, wherever you are in your spiritual journey, keep progressing forward, don't go backwards. So Dharma Gyan comes from whom? So we said that we come to the Gurdwara. Who actually gives us that Gyan? Hanji?
We like to teach us.
The teachers, okay. Let's read this. Want to read that? Kumbhe badda jal rahe. Jal bin kumbh na hoy. In days of old, a kumbha is like a earthenware jug, like your terracotta pots in your garden. When you water them, the water comes out of them. They're porous. And in days of old, the jal would on the whole remain in there. And if you glaze them, then the water won't come out. But Maharaj is saying in this slok, Kumbhe badda jal rahe, jal bin kumbh na hoy, that the water is held in the pitcher, in the jug. But it doesn't leave, because it's been glazed, it holds the water. But when it was clay, and it was being formed, water was poured onto it, and water is contained in it. Equally, Guru Maharaj says, Gyan ka badda man rahe. So to keep the man, remember we spent a lot of time talking about man, to remain spiritually sustained within wisdom, to have spiritual wisdom, needs something similar to the picture. So the gyan to stay within us, that has to come from the Guru Maharaj. Gur bin gyan na ho. So gyan ka badda man rahe, gur bin gyan na ho. So to get gyan and spiritual gyan, there's no other place, other than the Guru. And there's many Tukkan Bani, Gur bin Koranda, Guru bin Samjnave, So without the Guru, we will never have Samj, we will never have understanding. And it's reading Bani, which is an Akkar form, that gives us this. So why the difference? So this type of Gyan, why is it different to the other types of Gyan? And why do men of God have that ability to transcend across all the different Gyans? From Sri Sukhmani Sahib, Brahm Gyani Mukt Jukt Chi Ka Data, Brahm Gyani Puran Purk Badata. And the answer is that the knowledge, the Gyan, Dharmak Gyan, is complete Puran Gyan. It's complete Gyan. The other Gyan are incomplete. And those that get this Gyan themselves become Puran or complete.
Are we going to do that there now? Or is that, we got a slide on
Yeah, it's a bit further down, was it?
that?
Kind of did it there.
Yeah.
So I'm going to do the scientific bit now. Yeah.
Yeah. So we kind of mentioned this where in Bani, especially, the Guru Maharaj talks about scientific concepts, and Guru Arjan Dev Ji talks about how creation is created and destroyed in a blink of an eye. We've got the document. Yeah.
John, just a little bit about
So
Guru Nanak's view.
yeah, so Guru Nanak Dev Ji talks about science in the way where Guruji is talking about how at the beginning everything was darkness, everything was gas, and eventually that gas became water. Out of that gas then evolved creatures that lived only in the water at the beginning of creation. Out of the water living creatures, they grew or evolved the capacity to fly. So they fly out of that water, and then you have creatures that kind of live on land as well. Now eventually, we then, men or humanity, is evolved from that. Now Bani contains this, that knowledge that there was nothingness, that there was gas, that became water. Now if you look at what you hear and you talk about the world of science, there isn't a scientist out there that could actually challenge that view. So Guru Nanak Dev Ji has talked about these things as Waheguru himself in the form of man, but there's nothing that somebody who is skilled in science can actually say or add to that kind of says, well, no, it's not that, it's this. So Guruji's Bani, Guruji's knowledge, Guruji's Gyanta, even when they talk about science, kind of passes the test of time. So 300-400 years on, that knowledge is still something that we can believe.
Yeah, so what was the point we're making here, that Dharma Gyan, that people that have Dharma Gyan are not excluded from having the other Gyan. And as you just heard, that Guru Nanak Dev Ji, many hundreds of years ago, have already told the scientists of today that this was the state, that creation happened in this way, that there's this dond, this dark, gaseous existence from which everything else evolved. So Guruji make that point. And Guruji says everything that is created then also dies and has a life cycle. So that life cycle, so we see the sun today, the sun is burning hot. I don't know how many million years old it is. Guru Maharaj says the sun is actually getting colder. Why? Because the very virtue that anything that starts off hot, when the fuel that it's burning on runs out, gets cooler. The stars and the moons are reducing in their light. Now it's not discernible to us, we're too far away and we can't tell. But scientists, if they ever could land on the sun would actually come up with exactly the same theory as Guru Maharaj just says. These things are now cooling down. Everything is fading down.
So the point is that even within the solar system, things are moving on. Time is kind of changing what they were into what they are now. And eventually, what's been created will eventually come to a point where it's either changed to a form that's unrecognisable or be destroyed completely.
Yeah. And equally, Guruji says, mankind themselves evolves and eventually reaches an end. Because it's what Maharaj has created. So in this Gyan, this dharmic knowledge, we come to regain this. And the Guru Sahibs want us to wake up to this. And they say that in mankind, you could say a child is born, is in youth, as a child, and then goes into youth, and then goes into old age. Essentially 3 stages. And by the time you get to 40, your development on all fronts, physically, mentally, has reached its peak. After that, so if you've seen us play football, you know what I mean by that, is that after that, you sort of head downhill. There was a time when we used to say, yeah, we can play all day, we can play 3 hours, 4 hours, but then, as Maharaj says, in anything, as I say, your ability to think, sometimes I know you kids at home, have you forgotten this already, and you've forgotten that already, can you remember what happened in the last episode? No. Yeah, because when you get to 40, you're diminishing. So, Maharaj is telling us that. And Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji, in fact the last shabd was also Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji's that we looked at with the succession of numbers, which we hope to have an answer for next time. So, Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji says about life, Baal, Jawani, Ardbil, Fun, Teen Avastha Jan. So know the human life in 3 stages. Childhood, youth, and then old age. Now what the divisions are, pretty much close. I mean, there's another shop that says Bara, Basta, Bal, Panbite. So up to 12 you're a child. After 12 to about 20 odd, or 30 odd, I think 32 or something, your youth. And you start that decline. And certainly by the age of 50, 60 certainly you're birth, you're old. Yeah? So Baal, Jawani, or Birdafon. Three stages. Baal, child, Jawani, youthfulness, Bird, old age. And those are the 3 stages of life. And after that, there's the 2 end things, the covers, birth, death. So 3 stages in between. So Maharaj goes on to say, and much of Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji's Bani expresses how limited this life is and to make the most of it. Now some of you have learned Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji's shabds like Beet Jahe Janam Yakha. Yeah. Sab Kich Jivat Ko Bivihar. Everything in this world will disappear. Those stages in life will pass like a supana. They'll disappear like a dream. You had that dream, and then it's no longer real. So, Kaho Nanak, Har Bhajan Bin, Birtha Sabhi Mar. That everything is not real. And don't take the transitional. And Guru Arjan Dev Ji also state this, which is scientific as well, is that it's in Sarskriti Slok in Guru Granth Sahib, and it says that everything fades. So from a human perspective, beauty fades away, islands fade away, the sun and the moon, the stars and the sky, they all fade, they will all disappear. Why? Because those are the laws, those are scientific laws, but men of God know them, and Bani expresses them. From Sri Sukhmani Sahib, Vaheguru's creative power. How long does it take God to create anything? Haran paran ja kar netar for. In the twinkling of an eye, Vaheguru creates and destroys. Yeah. What comes goes. Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji once again says, Jo upajyo so ben sah paro aaj ke kar. Whatever has been created will be destroyed. These are the laws of God. And science also sees these, but they've already been explained. but scientists don't necessarily understand Dharma Gyan, yeah, and everyone will perish. So, a summary of that section.
Yeah. So the summary here is that a Brahmgyani, a saint, is deemed to be Puran, to be complete. Why? Because their knowledge isn't limited. Their knowledge isn't limited because they have what's called Dharma Gyan, or Dharma Gyan. Dharma Gyan, as we've heard, kind of covers every sphere. It can be Kala, it can be scientific, and everything in between. Okay, so just to kind of recap what we've said. So divine knowledge is spread and shared through letters. To gain knowledge, you need letters. To share knowledge, again, you need letters. All praise is contained through letters.
Okay, and this body brings this out, and the next set of dukkha all focus on Akari. Okay, so all together, Akari. Okay, Ban means different languages, Bolan means to speak, Likhan means to write. Yeah, so everything is written in Akkar. People speak Akkar, and languages are Akkar. So how many thousands of different languages are there, and with their different dialects? All is written. And Waheguru has created Likhana as a way of coming in communication with God. So Akri, Likhan, Bolan, Ban, yeah? Numerous languages, numerous letters. Next. Akra, Sir. Okay.
So this is kind of a reflection of the power of Akkar. Yeah, so another characteristic of Akkar is that it can induce Sanjog. Now, the opposite of Sanjog is Vijog. And I think we talked about the pain of Vijog. Separation is kind of the ultimate in pain. There's nothing like Vijog. Sanjog is the opposite of that, is the coming together. Now, different levels of Sanjog. Yeah, so when a family comes together, that's Sanjog. When two people get married, that's Sanjog. But the Sanjog that's being talked about here is the Sanjog that our Atma has to become one with Paramatma. That's Sanjog. Okay, so Akkar has that power of being able to bring us together with Waheguru.
Yeah, and there's various examples in Bani, and we hear of Mahapurk who then become one with Waheguru.
Yeah, but that capacity to achieve that Sanjog, Maharaj is saying that is actually written on our forehead. Yeah, it's predestined, is the other way of describing that.
Yeah. So I think one of the earlier body we talked about the lekha, the account of the creation. Eho lekha, lekha jane ko. Yeah, who can write this lekha? But as Bhaisab says, that our destiny is written on through words. We can't see it on our foreheads, that's the terminology used, but every person carries their own Sanjog and Vijog according to their actions, and how much Nam Simran and how close they are to Vaheguru. So Akkar can have that impact. And an example here of Bhakt Faridji, who was asked, Gavan sa Akkar, Gavan Gun, Gavan sa Maningamant. So what are those magic words that help us to get close to Vaheguru? Yeah? What verse, what clothes shall I wear to get close to my Vaheguru? Yeah? And the answer is, once again, Akkar can have that expression of kind words, sweet speak, humility. Yeah? Nivan sa Akkar, Nime hona, to show humility. Yeah? Kima karni, Kavan gun, yeah? Jebba maningamant, a sweet tongue, forgiveness, humility. So these are also Akkar, but that Gyan comes from Bani, to know these things. Next stop altogether. Jen eheleke disana. Okay, so Waheguru has written these writings or destiny on everybody's forehead. But Waheguru themselves have nothing written in their destiny. Got to go. Yeah, Waheguru has nothing on their forehead because nobody is above Waheguru.
Yeah. But Bhagat Kabirji talks about Akkar as something that, whilst akkar that we write with our hands is one type of akkar, but Bhagavad Kabirji talks about having akkar inside you. So Bhagavad Ji talks about his capacity to write Omkar in the sand, and he could then mitate that. Now that doesn't mean that Omkar met gaya, that Omkar is now being wiped clean. Bhagavad Kabirji then talks about how the asli akkar, the real akkar, are actually inside us. So when we can have the capacity to have those akkar inside us, we kind of understand that Waheguru can't be mit, can't be destroyed. And that's what Kabirji is talking about as being what he strives for, is what he's aiming for.
Yeah. So to move, as we said earlier, move from Akri Naam to Sata Naam, it can't be removed, it can't be wiped away. Next doc, Jiv Soramai altogether.
Jiv. Okay. So these akkar that we talked about, that apne jere mathe te likhe, apne mastak te likhe, that this is our destiny, you know, our sanjog and our vijog is written on our forehead. Guru Maharaj is saying that Waheguru isn't bound by these same rules. Yeah, so nobody writes Waheguru's lekha because Waheguru is perfect. So Maharaj is saying that these rules Waheguru is exempt from.
Next talk altogether, Jeta Kita, and again,
Jeta Kita.
Okay. Now here, as we talked about when we talked about Satanam, refers to Waheguru's status, about Waheguru's reputation. So Jeta Kita Teta now. So Waheguru's name and Waheguru's reputation and Waheguru's ability to write lekha is known throughout the world. So we talked about the different names Waheguru has, the different types of languages Waheguru, the different religions that worship God in different ways. So Jeta Kita, that one who has done this, who has written the lekha, yeah, Teta now, as great as their ability to write lekha is their status and Waheguru's reputation.
Yeah. So Waheguru's Naam represents Waheguru and his greatness. Yeah. So everything that is around us is Waheguru, and he's a reflection of that Naam.
Okay. Next talk altogether. When Nave Nahi Ko Tham. And that name of Waheguru, that reputation of Waheguru, there is no place anywhere. So we started the body off by saying Asang Nav, Asang Tav. Now if anybody could recall those Asang Navs and those Asang Tavs, Waheguru is at and in and Vyapak in every and contained in each and every one. So Vinanave Nahi Ko Tham. There is no town, no place at all where Waheguru or Waheguru's status and reputation is not.
Yeah. So when we talked about some of the earlier tukka in Japji Sahib, we talked about Sarb Vyapak. Yeah, so Waheguru is diffused in everything and everyone. Yeah, and we said, well, how is it that Waheguru doesn't get polluted if Waheguru is inside somebody who's not a good person? Yeah, we said that Waheguru has the capacity to remain aloof, but is still part of somebody or something.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we use Alir and Vyapak as the two words. Yeah. So altogether, finishing the body off as the three of the four body are finished. Altogether, Kudrat Varya Jama Ekvar Jyot Bhave Sahib Alika Tu Sada Salamat Rankar. So Kudrat Kavan Kahan Vichar. So we've talked about Kudrat now for a number of programs, 4 programs to be precise, yeah. And to say that in our study world, we used an example, didn't we? When we talked about Kudrat, what is Waheguru's Kudrat? It can be listed forever, yeah. Kudrat Suniya, yeah. Kudrat, what we see is Kudrat, what we hear is Kudrat. Everything that is created is Waheguru's Kudrat. So Guru Nanak Dev Ji show their utter humility and say, who am I to describe your Kudrat? Kudrat Kavan Kahan Vichar. How can I describe your creative power? Varya Jama Ekvar. I cannot even be a sacrifice to you, to your Kudrat, even once.
Yeah. So some people kind of interpret have a slightly different kind of description of that Varena Jama Ekvar dog. They would say that that's kind of a question. Yeah, can I become a sacrifice to you once? Yeah, as a question, as opposed to Varena Jama Ekvar, that I can't be a sacrifice to you even once.
Jo to the pave, Sahib Palika. Whatever you do, whatever works you undertake, they are right and correct. Waheguru is Tum Sada Salamat Nirankar. Waheguru is always salamat, always at ease, safe, sound, secure. And Waheguru is Nirankar, has no form. Yeah, so whilst Waheguru exists in Qudrat, Waheguru is still Nirankar. Yeah? Waheguru is Hukam, the one who does the Hukam. Yeah? We start the Hukam body by talking about
Before we start the conversation further, we'll walk around this.
Okay, so the slide we started with is the slide we're going to finish with. So body 19 is about Qudrat once again. So what is it within Qudrat? And this body moves slightly on in a different way to the first three Bodhinger in sort of bringing everything together. And he talks about how Qudrat is also in akkad, in words and in language. And we should use that, and we get Gyan from those akkad, and that is Dharmak Gyan. And where does that come from? That comes from Guru Maharaj. So this body is about acknowledging the fruitless attempts of trying to assess the extent of Vaheguru. Vaheguru cannot be quantified. And Guru Maharaj is saying in this body, Vaheguru is a Sank. Even a Sank becomes a bar by calling Vaheguru a Sank, because even beyond a Sank, Vaheguru is beyond that as well. So whilst the terminology is infinite, you can always add one to infinity and say it's more. So that's why Guru Maharaj is also, the translation of that doc is that Vaheguru is beyond the Sank, and therefore it causes people bar on their head, pressure on their head, to actually even describe Vaheguru as a Sank. So this body says our buddhi is limited, our understanding is limited. So when we talked about the agam, the agam means both our physical ability and our mental capacity, yeah, to comprehend Vaheguru and the law and the creations beyond our understanding, are far beyond what we can ever comprehend. So we can also go on to say, within these four Bodhinger, we start to appreciate the power of Vaheguru, the majesty of Vaheguru, and in the end we are left with saying one thing: Vah, Vah. Our Guru is Vaheguru. We are wonderstruck at the creation of Vaheguru. So shall we just do the whole part of the body
yeah.
together? And that way we can all say it together nice and loud. Just 1 minute. Okay, so next class, 4 weeks time, 9th of February.
Take your diaries.
I'll try and send it out today rather than like a day before. Okay, so next class, 4 weeks time, we'll continue with body 20, and then for the little ones, I'm sure we'll do something topical.
Yeah, just to kind of put that slide back on again, if you don't mind. Next class one. I know some of you have kind of joined us quite late. If you would like to see or hear about some of the earlier Bodhinger that we've done, other than maybe watching the YouTube videos, is that we are repeating this program at Wentzfield, Well Lane, Gurdwara as well. So next week at 6 o'clock, we're up to Poly 16, yeah. So you're more than welcome to join parents or whoever wants to kind of join us. So Well Lane, Gurdwara, Wentzfield at 6 o'clock.
Okay, so we'll do the part and then we'll sort of wrap up for today. So all together, because you're all very knowledgeable. Okay, all together. Asankanav.
Asankapal. Sirpal.
Let's do it one more time because you're a bit quiet then. Not that loudness is how much we did it, but I just know we can do it a bit louder. Okay, all together. Asang Kanal, Asang Kao, Agam, Asang Kulo, Asang Sepalakoi, Akrina, Akri Sala, Akri Gyan Ki Tunga, Akri Lekhan Bolarwan, Akra Se Sanjog Khan, Jin Ehle Khet Isana Hai, Jil Farmahe Iltifa Hai, Jita Kita Deta Na, Vinna Vena Hi Gokhan, Kudrat Kaur Kaha Vichar, Arendama Ilka, Yotu Deta Hai Sahib Anika, Tu Sada Salamat Nirankar. Okay, so I know we often do part and we say Kudrat Kaur Kaha Vichar very quickly, but now at least when we do those 4 Bodhinger, the 3 of the 4 Bodhinger have all of those lines in. One has just the 2 in, but we can focus and contemplate on what the meanings are behind what Maharaj has written. Okay, so we're halfway. So next time we will continue from body 20. So we've through Maharaj's Kirpa and your support, we ask you to do ardas for us that we can continue to do the second half of Japji Sahib and through the course of the year. So Japji Sahib is our very, very core part that Maharaj has given us, our Mala mantra that we need to say every day. And more so is not only say it but understand it and take that dharmic gyan, that dharmic knowledge that's contained in it. Okay, so I think we had one more slide.
Yes, we have got
Nearly
one more
there
slide.
now.
Yeah. And this is kind of one back to you really. When we get there.
Oh, here. There we go.
There it is.
Found it.
Okay. So, I mean, next month will be 16th anniversary of Sikhi class. And we're very conscious that what we don't want to do is just carry on our merry way and just do what we've been doing and do what we've always done. Because Sikhi class is your Sikhi class. What we do is kind of try and help you with what we can help you with. So this is like a humble binti to you guys, that parents, please tell us, even children, the older kids particularly, tell us what you want us to do, what you want us to cover. One of the ideas we've got is what we'd like to do, and maybe evolve towards this, is have like a parents forum where we kind of, not every time, but maybe quarterly, that we sit down as a group and we kind of just agree what we want to then do in the next 3 months, 6 months, whatever the time frame is. Yeah. As well as that, one idea that we wanted to bounce off you, parents in particular, is I know some of the parents go downstairs because maybe the kids don't want to be downstairs on their own when we're doing the breakout session. One idea is if we were to do a Sikhi class dedicated purely for adults, and we can pitch it to whatever level you feel comfortable with, would that be something that you'd be interested in? That's a question. Now you don't necessarily have to tell us straight away. Have a little think about it, what that kind of format could be, and maybe next time, we kind of have a 5 minutes at the end of it, and we can sort of talk about it.
Yeah, just to say the other things that over the years, and we have to sort of cater for who's here at the time. When Sikhi class first started, children were all of sort of the same age. Now we've had some people that have been coming for 16 years. We have some people that are probably better informed than us as children already in their Sikhi because of their family backgrounds. We have people that are still children that are very young, and therefore trying to cater for everybody. So that's why we split the class in 2. But obviously we try to always come together as well. So we do things like sports days. In the past, when money used to be less of a problem for local councils and governments, we used to try and get grants and do trips. That's become harder. So we'd like to just do other things like sports days and have picnics, and those always.
We still do trips.
We still do trips, yeah, to Colton Hills.
No, but I mean, part of what we want from you guys is maybe tell us the sort of places you might want to go to.
Yeah.
As long as it doesn't involve an aeroplane, I think we're okay.
Yeah. And just to say that Sikhi is about fitting the jigsaw pieces together. Sikhi class is probably one element of what we should be doing, because it's about trying to piece together. So I know a lot of you do Kirtan, a lot of you do Tabla, A lot of you doing Santia, which is very important. And all those things are important because I had somebody speaking the other day and they said, why is Sikhi over the generation in this country in particular fallen behind? And the answer is because we've moved away from our core. Now you go back to when we did the 18th century Sikhs program, the Sikhs of the 18th century were very strong in the core activities of Sikhi. Santhya, Naam Japana, Path Karna, Gatka, Shastra Vidya, historical information, Guruji's history, Itihas, and all those things binded Sikhi together. Now it's a different world out there, and it's a very fast moving world, and work is intense and everything. But as we said today, you can have that scientific gyan, you can have that kala gyan, but without dharma gyan, which is only can be obtained from Guru Maharaj, then those things become insignificant. And what Guru Tegh Bahadur said, we live in this phase of three: Bal, Jawani and Birth. And after then, it's a supana, it's gone. So during that time, we try and make strides in our Sikhi and make Sikhi strong, and having you all come together. So there's a thank you in this, because 16 years hasn't just happened because we've been running it out 16 years. A lot of the parents have supported us very, very well and very heartily over those years. So really asking you to have a little think about the things that we've asked about. Give us your thoughts, because we're only two heads. You're probably many more heads, and probably better heads as well. So if you have a little think about that, we'll call it a day there. Tufateh Langar Shakti, and then we'll meet on the 9th next month. Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh. Next class on again.